Hey guys, Passion Speaks here. Welcome to another video. I'm going to show you how to make bone broth. I make beef bone broth and it has a lot of nutrients in it and collagen, and it's very, very good for electrolytes and replenishing. I'm doing the carnivore diet. I use this a lot so I don't get foot cramps. It's very good for healing the gut and for gut health. A lot of people drink bone broth just for gut health and for healing. So what I have here is I have short ribs and they're on the bone, and I'm going to bake these. This is my dinner tonight. I'm going to try to eat it all, but that's quite a bit of meat. It's really good fatty meat, and that's what I need for this diet. You need a lot of fat. You want like at least 70 to 80% fat to 20% protein to do it right and to feel good. These are ribs. I cut them in individual pieces. Yeah, they're beef ribs. It has some meat on it in the bone, of course. So I'm gonna bake all of this in the oven at 350 degrees for 50 minutes. I'll be taking the meat off of here and putting the bones in my bone broth, which I am going to use an Instapot to make my bone broth to cut the time down. If you're doing it by hand on the stove, it's going to take 24 hours of boiling it, and I'm not patient, so I do things the most efficient way that I can think of how. So I'm going to season it with iodized sea salt and black pepper, or actually this is both black and white pepper, and I use this because it has, the white pepper has less oxalates in it, and I really am trying to cut down on that as much as possible. And iodized sea salt. And later I'm also going to use this real salt. It's Redskins real salt, and it has a bunch of electrolytes and minerals in here, but I'll do that after it's cooked. I use a lot of salt. Salting to taste is very, very important, and I need the iodine, so that's why I use a lot. Okay, so I'm set to 350. I'm going to put these on the bottom. These short ribs are going to take 50 minutes to cook. So, alrighty, I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, it's been about 50-55 minutes, and it's time for me to take the meat out. Good, and this here is the ribs that I'm going to be eating. And here are the other beef back ribs. Kind of see them there. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you about, and I added it after about 10 minutes into the cooking process, is marrow bones. I get these 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef marrow bones, and I have 4 of them, and I'm gonna put this in my bone broth. So these I'm gonna leave alone because I'm gonna eat these, except I am gonna take the bones off of there, and these are all gonna go in my Instapot to make the bone broth. And when I make bone broth, I like to use my time wisely, so I also make a roast of some sort. This is a boneless Angus beef chuck roast. If I could have found it with the bone in, I would have got the bone in instead. I do like to cook roast, that way I can eat off of this all week. So what I usually do is I'll put this in, I'll cook it for about an hour and a half on high, and then I'll take this meat out. Then I'll start it up again for another hour and a half, 2 hours, so I can get a really good nutritious bone broth to where it really breaks down those bones.
What? Where are they?
This here is my Instapot. It's a Viva Instapot. This is what I have, and I get a lot of good use out of this. Just washed this stuff not too long ago, so I'm gonna put this little part in there. I gotta put this together real quick. When I wash this, I take the little pressure valve, or this little doodad, I take it apart and clean it. And then of course this. So for now, I'm gonna put this aside. So I'm gonna be quick about this. Salt and pepper it, of course. I like salt and pepper. That's pretty much the only seasoning I use. This is a beautiful chuck roast. It's all marble. There's a lot of fat in there. All right, and of course my salt. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm gonna take this beautiful piece of meat and I'm gonna put it in here. And it's gonna cook for about an hour and a half and it should be perfect. I gotta add my other stuff now. Yeah, I did not plan this out very well. My tongs are in the dishwasher, so I can't use those. So, I will be separating the rib meat from the bone broth at the end of the cooking process, and I will eat it. I'll just mix it with the roast. It is actually very, very good that way. And this just adds more flavor too. These are marrow bones. I'll put those in there. Alright, so I hope this works. There's like a level fill there and you don't want to go above it. So yeah, I might be a hair bit above it. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take water and I'm gonna fill it in here to the max fill line. It says 2/3. And then later, about an hour and a half after I take out the roast, I will put more water in. That's what it looks like. There's that fill line over there. I'm gonna add just a little bit more salt. I never end up adding enough salt anyways. Usually when I warm up my bone broth, I'll add the mineral salt to it for extra flavor and nutrients. How you use this is, always look for the closed part, and then I'm just gonna put this over here like that. Then you rotate it, and I'm gonna go an hour and a half. That's usually perfect cooking for the roast, and it's usually very, very moist and very delicious. So I'm gonna push pressure cook, and here is on normal and high. That's what I want. And so I'm going to put this at an hour and 30 minutes. And it looks just like that. It's gonna pressure up and it'll start cooking once the pressure's up, and it'll start counting down. All right guys, it's been an hour and a half since I put this roast in, and now I just need to take the roast out. I'm gonna leave the bones in and then go about another hour and a half. See how it looks first before I decide that. Put this here. You can tell that the meat on the ribs are done. Alrighty, this is the roast. It is a very good roast. It's very tender. I have these 3 bones from the ribs that I was eating earlier. So I'm gonna put these in here. And I'm just gonna add a little bit more water. And then I'm gonna go an hour and a half. So it'll be a total cook time will be 3 hours for the bone broth. Alrighty. I'm gonna put this back on there. And yeah, another hour and a half is what I want for a total of 3 hours, and then it should be good. It's been an hour and a half, and I am going to remove the lid, and then I'm going to separate everything and then put the bone broth in my mason jars. have a whole lot of fancy things, but I do have this strainer that I'm going to use, and I just have a pot, and I'm going to put that in the sink, and then the strainer over the top of it, and then I'm going to pour that in there. That way the bones and the meat is separated from the actual bone broth. It's a little bit hot, so I always use my hot pads. Dump this in here, try not to burn myself. Oh, maybe. As I don't burn myself will be good. Alright. So actually, the mixture of the bones and the meat stayed in here. So I'll just leave that in there, that back in there. And what we have here is the leftover bone broth. This is my mason jar. The nice thing about these mason jars is it has a lid like this. So when you put these on and then you put them in the fridge, it'll seal so that the bone broth stays really fresh for a long time. I stir it before I pour it in there. That way it's all mixed evenly. Oh, and I'm making a mess, of course. But I just kind of wanted you guys to see what it looks like. Normally I do this over the sink though because it's so much easier. But yeah. And I usually go to about there. And you can already see in here that that's going to be probably really, really white tallow, which is the fat. And I definitely drink that with my bone broth. But yeah, you can see that separating, and it's actually, this has a lot of fat in it. So I'll definitely be taking the tallow and probably half of it and putting it in my tallow jar. This is a jar of some of the tallow from the other bone broths that I've made. I add this to other recipes, just frying things, or I put it into my bone broth when I warm it up so I have a little extra fat. It's really, really hard for me to eat enough fat, so I'm trying, and this is one way that I'm able to do that. And then that just goes on like that. Then this I will put in the fridge, and in the morning I will show you what all of these look like and the consistency. Hey guys, it's the next day, and my bone broth has been chilled and is the consistency that I want to show you. I ended up with 3 jars of bone broth from what I made last night, and you can see the white cap here of the tallow. This I do add to my bone broth as I'm drinking it. I try to drink it twice a day. I forget sometimes, but I try to drink it first thing in the morning and right before bed. I noticed that I develop foot cramps sometimes, even when I was on a normal diet, and drinking this before bed has reduced my foot cramps. So if I ever get like foot or leg cramps, then I just make sure I'm drinking this. And we'll see how this does. I have trouble finding actual knuckles. I would add it to my bone broth if I could find them, but you know, usually it's just rib bones and whatever meat that I can find that has bones is what I use. I'm just gonna take my spoon and pierce it. Yeah. The tallow is really, really thick. I'm gonna put some in there. I'm gonna make me some bone broth now. This is perfect. It is, let's see if I can turn the right way. It is definitely, looks like jello. That's what you want it to look like. So let's go like this, and that means there's a lot of collagen in there. And yeah, it's exactly the consistency that we want. People just starting out on drinking bone broth, you might want to start with less fat at first, because if you're not used to it, it can be a little bit hard on your stomach and make you a little bit nauseous. I usually put this for about a minute, minute and a half. I'm going to add a little bit of this Redmond's real salt. I usually just salt to taste. I'm just gonna put about a teaspoon in there. And this is kind of how it's looking. Yeah, it's gonna need just a little bit warmer. Alright, that's it for the bone broth. If you guys have any questions, just if you have any questions on this, just put it down in the comments down below, and I will answer whatever you guys might be curious about. And yeah, thank you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.